Good morning, colleagues. We've got a lot to discuss.
Across 20 different income spectrums, from the poorest on the left all the way to the richest. Everything above that dotted white line is a gain, but everything below is a loss. And when you see the line animate on, Kathy, you can see that actually most of those losses are concentrated at the poorer end of the income spectrum.
You accepted £600 worth of seats in the VIP box for a Sabrina Carpenter concert. Not got much to do with government, has it?
A looming tax crisis, a chancellor under fire, and a devastating economic forecast that could plunge millions into poverty. Could Rachel Reeves be leading Britain into a financial abyss? And is President Trump's latest tariff war about to deal the final blow to the UK economy? Today, we uncover the shocking details the government doesn't want you to hear. Stay with us because what you're about to see could change everything. And if you believe the government should be held accountable, hit that subscribe button now because the truth starts here.
That we're going to do things differently. We're going to tell the truth, even when they are hard truths.
Here's some analysis from the Resolution Foundation, who looked at tax and benefit policies set out for this Parliament across 20 different income spectrums, from the poorest on the left all the way to the richest. Everything above that dotted white line is a gain, but everything below is a loss. And when you see the line animate on, Kathy, you can see that actually most of those losses are concentrated at the poorer end of the income spectrum. Now, that is not very progressive and will make for some uncomfortable reading for Labour MPs.
Why is it when, as you put it yesterday, the world is changing, the burden of that has to fall on the most vulnerable shoulders? Have you paused to wonder at all whether you're doing the right thing here?
Let's start with the brutal reality. The UK economy is teetering on the edge, and the government's spring budget has done little to stop the downward spiral. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has issued a stark warning: if the economy worsens, Rachel Reeves will have to raise taxes this autumn. That's not speculation, that's a fact. But the real shock comes from the Resolution Foundation, a left-leaning think tank that just delivered a devastating verdict. Their analysis of Reeves' spring statement reveals a harsh truth: millions of the UK's poorest will be hit the hardest. Look at this. The wealthiest gain, the poorest lose. And that's before we even factor in the latest poverty figures. 4.5 million children in the UK are now in poverty, a staggering increase of 100,000 in just 1 year. Charities have called it a national shame, but here's where it gets even worse. The Chancellor insists these policies will lift people out of poverty by pushing them into work. But let's be real, slashing benefits while the job market is stagnating. That's not reform. That's austerity by another name. And if you think the Resolution Foundation's warning was bad, brace yourself for what's coming next.
Why is it when, as you put it yesterday, the world is changing, the burden of that has to fall on the most vulnerable shoulders? Have you paused to wonder at all whether you're doing the right thing here?
In the budget last year, I increased taxes by £40 billion on the wealthiest, with the changes to the non-dom rules, VAT on private schools, changes in inheritance tax and increasing capital gains tax, as well as the increase on national insurance that businesses pay. Yesterday, I set out reforms to the welfare system, including £1 billion to help people get back into work. I'm confident that these reforms will help people get jobs, lift them out of poverty and have fulfilling jobs and careers.
You say you want to lift people out of poverty, but the Resolution Foundation has crunched the numbers. You will have seen this, and they've said that millions of lower income families will actually be £500 a year worse off as a result of these changes.
Well, the assessments are all being done on the premise that no one will actually go back into work. But the whole point of this £1 billion package, and learning from what governments have done in the past, is that we want to move people from benefits into work.
You're cutting money from 3 million families and pushing an extra 250,000 into relative poverty. Are you really going to give a big tax cut to the likes of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos after that, by cutting the digital services tax? Because that's under discussion, isn't it?
I'm not. I don't accept the numbers about what's going to happen in terms of poverty, because that assumes that no one will move into work.
Okay, but on the digital services tax, are you really going to give them a big tax break?
On the digital services tax and tax in general are decisions for the UK government, not for any other government to decide. And I believe that companies should pay taxes in the countries in which they operate, which is why we have the digital
So you're
services
not going to change it?
Tax. Look, taxes change all the time, but that principle and making sure that digital companies pay taxes in Britain is a principle this government believes and is something that we will stick with.
Because if you were to give his biggest and richest supporters a big tax break, then it's, just to keep on Donald Trump's good side, then you are effectively voluntarily giving dinner money to the school bully the moment he steps into the playground, aren't you?
Well, at the moment, we are in intense negotiations to try and secure an economic agreement with our single biggest trading partner, the United States.
Is this a lever you could use?
What we're looking at is tariffs that we charge and tariffs that they put on our imports into the US.
Are you ruling out reciprocal tariffs? The Lib Dems were calling today for tariffs on Teslas coming into the UK.
I want tariffs to come down, not to go up, and I don't think a trade war is good for anyone, which is why the UK is in intense negotiations with the US.
So no tariffs on Teslas?
Look, we are in those discussions at the moment to try and reduce tariffs, not increase them.
Donald Trump is levying taxes on British products, costing British jobs, making us poorer. Isn't there a point where we have to stand up for ourselves like the Canadians are doing?
Well, we're in negotiations at the moment, and in those negotiations we're standing up for the British interest. The best possible outcome would be to see no tariffs increase between countries. We are working hard.
But what's the stick you're using to wave at Donald Trump?
I'm not going to negotiate on Channel 4 News. We'll negotiate with the Americans, and those talks are reaching a crucial point in the next few days. I'm determined to get a good deal for Britain, because it is in our national interest to help British companies exporting around the world, including to the US, our biggest single trading partner.
Reeves denies the numbers, but the evidence is clear. These cuts don't incentivize work, they push struggling families deeper into crisis. But if that wasn't enough, there's another economic storm brewing. Donald Trump is back, and he's waging economic war. His latest tariff announcement targets the UK auto industry, a sector that makes up 10% of all UK exports. The impact, devastating. Economic experts warn that Trump's move could slash UK output by 1% next year and 0.75% in the medium term. In plain English, thousands of jobs and billions of pounds at stake. And here's where it gets even more outrageous. Instead of standing firm, the UK government is in intense negotiations. But what does that really mean? Well, while Canada stands up to Trump, Britain bows down. Is this leadership, or is this surrender? And let's talk about what's really at stake. As British families face higher costs and job uncertainty, a quiet but shocking proposal is circulating: the potential scrapping of the UK's digital services tax. What does that mean? Tech giants like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos could get a massive tax break, while ordinary Britons foot the bill. She won't say it outright, but we all know what's happening behind closed doors. So, let's put this together. Austerity policies hitting the poorest, a tax break for the ultra-rich, and a government too weak to stand up to Trump's economic aggression. Is this really the leadership Britain needs? Let's be clear, these policies aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They affect you, your taxes, your job, your future. And with an autumn budget looming, things could get much, much worse. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe Rachel Reeves is leading Britain down the wrong path? Should the UK fight back against Trump's tariffs? And most importantly, should billionaires get a tax cut while millions struggle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, if you want hard-hitting, fact-checked, and fearless analysis, subscribe now and turn on notifications. The fight for the truth is just beginning.
All governments make choices. You didn't have to make these cuts. You didn't have to cut the winter fuel allowance. You could have made other choices. You could have
for example, taxed people with £10 million of assets 2%. That would have brought in billions of pounds a year, yet you chose to penalise poorer people.
Well, in the budget last year, we raised taxes to the tune of £40 billion. That was primarily on the wealthiest and also asking businesses to pay more through national insurance. But we got rid of the non-dom status. So if you make your home in Britain, you'll pay your taxes here. Put VAT on private schools.
Well, that's backfired, hasn't it?
What has?
But VAT on private schools, that's actually costing you money, according to the BBC today.
Oh, no. The Office for Budget Responsibility and the Institute of Fiscal Studies say that it's bringing in more money than they originally anticipated. So those changes, increasing capital gains tax and tightening up the inheritance tax rules, do mean that the wealthiest are paying more into the tax system.